Good morning. That sucked. Good morning. All right, there we go. Yeah, I got to make sure you're all awake. It is Vegas. So, don't mind me, I'm pace a lot. Some say it's just the way I am, some say it's anxiety, but we'll figure it out. My name's Isaac. I'm going to be talking about something that's really, I think, changing not just the course of our industry, but every industry, and that is artificial intelligence. And the question is not whether AI is here. It is. The important question is, are you actually going to use it to make you a better coach, or are you going to sit on the sideline while other people use it to make our industry worse? So that's what we're really getting into. Before I really dive into the deep nitty-gritty of this, I'll share a little bit about who I am, who we are. So I'm the chief mentor for Trainer Revenue Multiplier. As Ram said earlier, we help business owners and health and fitness coaches like you guys scale your businesses to 6-7 figures while also saving you time and energy. And then I myself founded a tech company called Arclidian, where we build intelligence models for executive teams to help across all of their departments, as well as for defense, gathering intelligence for reconnaissance teams. Now, show of hands, how many of you are actually using AI? Awesome, all the hands went up. I love it. Okay, show of hands, how many of you are using more than just ChatGPT? All right, awesome, hands went up. How many of you get into a terminal every day? Haha, okay. Cool. I know the audience I'm talking to. I love it. All right. So there's two questions I want you to ask yourself now, and then ask yourself again at the end of this talk. The first question is, why is this even important to you? Why is AI important? Second question is AI really that useful? All right, because as you answer that now and then you answer it again at the end of this talk, those answers might be different. They might have changed a little bit, which honestly I think would be a successful talk. AI is getting way better at doing everything from video generation, text, its ability to make you think like it's reasoning, to being able to help us in the gyms, on the gym floor, helping our coaches, even down to the scientific level. Being able to help understand anatomy, physiology, hormones, being able to help make breakthroughs in science and medicine. And then actually being able to help us apply those things to serving our people, serving our clients. AI is becoming way more powerful every single day. And the further you wait to actually dive into using it, the more it expands exponentially and harder to keep up with. I will say, though, the widespread adoption of AI is ruining trust in our industry. How many of you have been surfing AI and surfing social media and seen things and you're like, that's not real? Yeah, a lot of you. It's not the AI's fault. I would like to say it is. It's not. It's the person behind the screen using AI to manipulate you. See things like this all the time. Thanks to AI, this transformation is possible in just 2 minutes and a single prompt. You don't even need a six-pack anymore. You just need to have a computer and a social media account, and then everyone thinks you have a six-pack. Now, that's blatant misuse of AI. It's shady marketing, it's dirty sales. I know way too many people who run companies where their advertising is made by AI, their coaching is made by AI, their sales agents doing calls are made by AI, and yet everyone thinks that they're working with the actual coach. The only thing the coach does is owns the bank account. That's blatant misuse. But are you misusing AI and you don't even realize it? Are you innocently typing into ChatGPT and Claude and thinking you're being an amazing coach when in reality, you're actually hurting the person that you're trying to serve? That's a scary thought. What we're seeing in the health and fitness industry right now is everyone is a researcher. We went from being able to do 2 Google searches and a TikTok video and calling it research to now 1 prompt into ChatGPT and calling that research. Everyone can plug labs into ChatGPT and say, hey, help me decipher these labs. Tell me what's good, what's bad, and how to correct it. And now they're a hormone specialist. Everyone is using AI to say, like, hey, these are what my client's complaining about with the rotator cuff. What's the issue? Give me a program to fix it. And now they're a physical therapist. Honestly, everyone is everything. Problem is, they've just become hands and feet for a system of algorithms that they have no idea how to use. Now, if that hurts to hear, if any of you were like, I'd plug labs into ChatGPT and have it help me out, I'm sorry. Now, I promise, though, I'm not playing the blame game here. I do hope that this conversation, this talk, allows you to leave here knowing how to use these tools appropriately so that you can be a researcher, you can be a hormone specialist, you can do the things that you actually intimately love studying and researching and knowing how to do, and AI helps you do them better, helps you serve people better, not to replace you, but to augment so that you can do way more than you ever thought possible. First, we should say, if AI tells you to jump off a bridge, would you do it? If AI tells you you can cure PCOS, you should probably do your own research too. Being able to come to places like this, taking these awesome talks, things on PCOS, on peptides, on hormones, and then being able to take those talks, those videos, plug them into ChatGPT or AI to use as memory, to use as knowledge, to use as reference, so that it can help you with real backing. And I say this because AI is not actually thinking. It's predicting. How many of you use Google? Cool. So have you ever used Google and typed in Aram and Isaac are, and it pops up like sexiest men alive, right? That's because millions or billions of people have also typed in that Aram and Isaac are the sexiest people alive. And so it just assumes that that's what you're looking for, right? Well, large language models work in a similar way. Now, this is a lot of information, but what this really deciphers down into is a large language model is built on pretty much all of the internet and a bunch of books that they pirated and stole, but we'll get into that later. And essentially, it takes all of that information and it runs prediction algorithms. So when you type in a question, that question is turned into what's called a token, or a bunch of tokens, depending on how many words. I use less tokens because I'm small town, Midwestern. My words are small. So it takes those tokens, runs it into its prediction algorithm, and thinks through what is it that I most likely am looking for as an answer as the reply. It's not actually thinking through the solution. It's predicting based off of the context that it has on what I think the solution should be. Then it gives me an output. And then I ask another question, it does the same thing, and it repeats that cycle. So by the end of this chat, my goal is to make AI useful for you so you can actually be a better coach and understand how these systems work. So as they begin to evolve and grow and they change every day, you have a foundation to know how to use these, even if there's a new update like tomorrow that changes the game. Now it's time to expand beyond ChatGPT and learn how to use AI appropriately. And this is how I want you to leave after this talk. All right? I want you to be able to understand, oh, I know how to use this. I know how to use these systems. I am the system. And I hope to inspire you a little bit. I hope to inspire you to think a little bit bigger about what AI can help you do, whether that's in research, in content, in client experience, in automating your operations. I'm going to give you some specific workflows that you can take and actually utilize after this, but the goal is for you to actually start thinking of oh wow, AI can do way more than I thought, and there's a lot more that I can explore. Now, we're going to start seeing the whole stack, not just a chat box, not just going into ChatGPT or Claude AI and having like Aram said, oh, how many calories should I eat today? That's the chat box. we used to think, oh wow, AI is way better than Google. I can use it like Google, but it's way better. Instead, after this talk, I want you to actually think through like, wow, AI is a coworker that can actually finish work, and actually do things, can actually touch the world, and help me serve more people at a way higher experience level while still staying personal. We'll get into there's 4 types of models that are worth defining here. Most of you know a large language model, an LLM. That's your ChatGPT, your Gemini, your Claude, Perplexity, like all of those. Then you have computer vision. Computer vision is AI that understands images, video, object detection. It can also use like a browser on its own, so it can use like a serverless browser and scan the internet for you. Then you have speech and audio. This converts speech to text, text to speech. This is like your 11 labs. Or if you talk to any kind of voice agent, that's using speech and audio. Then you have multimodal. Multimodal AI does all of these things. It can take in images, files, PDFs, Excel sheets, sound. It can create all of those things. Really good example is if you go to the Bridge Athletic booth, they have a new feature where you can write a workout in scribbles and stuff on a whiteboard, take a picture of it, and automatically uploads as the workout that you programmed. And I tested it yesterday. This isn't the one I wrote. I wrote one that was way worse English and way more unclear, and it made it perfectly. That's using a multimodal AI in order to actually help you program faster. So how do we make AI smarter? How many of you have had a conversation with a chat, and then it seemed like it got to the point where it just shut off and was like, all right, you have to start a new chat? And you're like, oh, shit, I have to re-talk this whole thing again? Raise the hands, how many of you experienced that? Yeah, a lot. How many of you have also experienced where you start to get to the end of that window and it starts getting real dumb? Yeah. I like to say it's getting token drunk, all right? So AI has a context window. That context window has a limit of tokens you can use. And as you start to get to the end of that, it starts to get like that 22-year-old frat bro who starts getting a little too many drinks, thinks he can start hitting on the waitress, and you're like, dude, it's time to go home. We got to get you out of here. LLMs do that. The chat box will do that. It'll start hallucinating. But it also knows that you're the police, and he needs to not be drunk when he walks by you, so he's going to do everything he can to sound like he's not token drunk. He will give you the exact answer you want to hear and the way you want to hear it, but if you dig deeper, you'll realize 80% of it is false. It's what we call hallucinations. Now, how can we actually make this better on just a chat level, right? So there's 3 habits that are really important here. The first one, I always start a new project or a new chat with the most powerful prompt you could ever use. Interview me. So when you start a new project, you start a new chat, and you want to do something, you want to accomplish something, always start with, hey, interview me to get enough clarity on this new project I want to do. And then you give a rough breakdown of the project, and then you let it ask you a bunch of questions. It's going to ask you questions that you didn't even think about answering. And it's going to gain enough clarity to understand what you're trying to do, how you want to do it, how you want to sound, how you want it to work and operate. And it helps you get all of that clarity without going back and forth with this model a million times and burning up half of the context window. Then you want to make it think out loud. So it'll direct you an answer, but you want to ask, how did you think through this? Or there's certain toggles if you're on a reasoning model where it will actually show you its thought process. Pay attention to that, because sometimes it's going to go through a process that you might be like, that's not what I wanted. You're going down the wrong alleyway. So you can push back on it and get it to course correct. And then show, don't describe. Give it examples. If there's, let's say this is for content, and you want to do a new, campaign, and you have it interview you on the type of campaign you want to do, also feed it examples of your previous content so it knows your tone, your personality, how you write, how you sound. And now we're going to get into the fun stuff. We're going to leave the chat. I'm going to go into now, how can AI touch the world? We're going to talk about tools, agents, and workflows and building intelligent systems for coaching. So it's time to leave the chat. Agents, how many of you have heard of AI agents before? Awesome. So agents, there's a difference between AI and agentic AI. AI is a chatbot. Agentic AI is a LLM or some kind of AI model that can actually manipulate and work within the world, can actually touch things, can actually do workflows, and do it with a level of what we would call human-like reasoning. Agents or agentic AI has three main parts. It has memory, tools, and skills. It can remember, what do I know? You can think about what can I touch? And it can think about what do I know how to do? So talking about memory, there's three tiers of what it remembers. There's always loaded, there's today and yesterday, and there's search on demand, all right? So always loaded. This is, how many of you who use ChatGPT or Claude have their own custom GPTs? Awesome, a lot of hands went up. So whenever you make a custom GPT, you have that little portion where it says knowledge, and you can upload files to it. That is kind of an always on or search on demand, right? The instruction prompt that you give it, so whenever you make a custom GPT or custom project in Claude, that is where the instructions is always on. It will always read its instructions before answering any prompt. It does take up some of the context window, but it also saves tokens because you don't have to re-explain who it is, what it does, or why it does it every single time. Instead, it just goes, reads that instruction file, or reads those instructions. It knows if it's directed to the knowledge files or not, and that's always on. Today and yesterday is the chat itself, that context window that you have in a conversation. At this point, it can last probably about 2 days. And at that point, once you exit that chat, it's gone forever. So this is recent things that you've captured. And then search on demand. That's what we call RAG or vector databases, where you can tell your LLM to go search within a bunch of different files or a lot more context, and it'll take keywords and search for the parts of any files that you're trying to do, and it'll be able to grab that and bring it out. For example, I have an agent who does my bookkeeping, and at the end of the month, it'll close my books. But if I'm looking for something specific, like transactions that happened 3 months ago, I can tell it. It's not always on. All of my files are not always on. It would never be able to do anything. It would be token drunk all the time. But instead, I can say hey, go back to January of 2026 and find the transactions between January 1st and January 16th, and bring those back to me in a line-by-line spreadsheet. It'll go and do that retrieval, bring that up, create that spreadsheet, and send it to me. So context, close the chat, it's gone. Context is up. Your actual always on files can be an instruction file, a memory file, things like that, where you give it the same voice, the same rules every time. You don't have to reprogram that. It just goes and looks at that instruction sheet. And then retrieval. All right, so now we have tools. This is how it touches the world. Now there's a lot of different tools, but there's three that are really important to kind of remember in terms of how these are layers in between that help the AI use tools. So we have APIs, MCPs, and CLIs. CLIs is kind of generic. You also have SDKs and a bunch of other acronyms that make no sense. But APIs is like a doorway. So if you have a third-party service, let's say QuickBooks, for example. If you use QuickBooks, QuickBooks has an API that essentially is a little connection point on the internet. And whenever you plug into that API, it opens that door so you can have your own service see through that door into your QuickBooks. So if you ever have a third-party service that connects to your QuickBooks, it connects via an API. MCPs are like APIs, but built for agents. So MCP is called Model Context Protocol. And Model Context Protocol is what allows agents to connect to third-party services or agentic systems to connect to these services and actually give the AI more context into what it's peering into, what it's looking at, what it's operating in. So you can have an agent with an MCP connecting to, let's say, QuickBooks, for example. And that agent can actually go in and now download spreadsheets, download your transaction lists, transaction reports. Or if you have AI running your whole business, some people have their agents go into QuickBooks and actually make invoices and send invoices out. And then CLIs, SDKs, all those other things are more for the like 2 people in here who actually turned on a terminal. These are tools that you can get into in the terminal that now manipulate and interact with all of these third-party services for you. Not just that, you can use AI in the terminal to actually be the coder. You don't even need to know how to code. AI can code for you. You talk to it in plain English. It can use the CLIs, the SDKs, all of those things, and interact. I know Turnkey Coach, they have a connection via Claude where you can just manipulate Turnkey Coach through Claude. And so it can help you do all your coaching right in Claude. So it's cool to see some of the sponsors here using AI in cool ways. Now, we've talked about memory. We've talked about tools. Skills. Skills is like a recipe. You write it once, you leave it, it'll remember how to do it and do it consistently over and over again until you take that skill away, right? How many of you have ever had a virtual assistant before? A few. How many of you had a virtual assistant that wasn't an English-speaking native? How many of you had to repeat yourselves 1,000,000 times for them to get the thing right that you needed them to get right? A few. As long as you give it the instructions right and the skill, it will never mess it up. It'll do it exactly how you want it to do every time, and it never sleeps, never takes a break. It's like a Malaysian Nike worker who just never sleeps, but also doesn't complain about it, because strikes suck. So all of these 3 things make the difference between a chatbot and an actual employee, a coworker, all right? You have your memory, your tools, your skills. You pull any one of these out, the whole system kind of collapses. A lot of these businesses are rushing to incorporate AI, and so they have these AI chatbots that'll talk to you on the phone, and it's even worse than talking to an actual rep. I just want to talk to a human. Human! Give me a human! And it's because they built their systems without all of these 3 things in. They have 1 or 2. And so they suck. But if you have all 3, you actually start to get compounding leverage. You get a real employee that works extremely well, doesn't forget things, always works, never sleeps, and genuinely understands you, your business, your values, your mission, your vision, who you serve, how you serve them. List goes on. Before I continue, is this helping any of you? Perfect. Getting some thumbs up. Awesome. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper, but honestly, this has nothing to do with the presentation. I just love Napoleon Dynamite, and I thought this would be a good moment. Yeah. All right. So we're going to get into actual now workflows, tools you guys can use. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Claude. Second one I'm going to talk about is OpenClaw. Why I use these is because they are the least complicated to use, and they touch the most tools, the most systems. They help you in more ways than ChatGPT as of right now. So I'm going to talk about these 2. These are not the limit. What I tell you right now is not oh, this is the whole of AI. I am not smart enough, nor do we have enough time. But this will give you a start into seeing how much more AI can do. So Claude has 2 main things I want to talk about. They have Claude Routines and Claude Cowork. Both of these are just wrapped around Claude Code. Great news is you can just go to claude.ai and make your account, and then on the side panel, you don't have to get into a terminal to use Claude Code anymore. You just click the little sidebar on Claude, click the drop-down of Claude Code, and it pulls up just another normal-looking chat interface. But what you don't see is behind the scenes, it's a terminal. And it's working within a code base for you, building things for you, working apps for you. So Claude Routines is a version of that allows you to actually schedule jobs, workflows, agentic workflows. so it can take action for you on a routine that lives in the cloud. And then Cowork lives on your machine. Cowork is part of the Claude desktop app when you download it, and it can manipulate all of the files on your local base. It can also search the internet, it can do other things, but it's really good at doing long-form synthesis. So when I talked about that RAG system, that retrieval system before, and how like I have my financial agent being able to go and pull all of that information, do my P&Ls, close the books, that was a Cowork workflow that it does. So Claude Routines, it's a schedule that does work. So Claude Routines, OpenClaw, a lot of them can do the same thing now. Difference is routines you can't really talk to outside of Claude itself, but you can set up scheduled jobs. So if you wanted every Monday, you wanted a content brief, so like, hey, send me 6 a.m. every Monday, like a report on all of the other content creators within my niche, and tell me what's working, what's trending, what hooks are getting the most engagement, and then send me my own analytics from all of my social media pages and let me know how the last week of content analytics were and help me come up with a plan for the next week of content so I can better connect to my audience. You wake up on 6 a.m. on Monday, guess what we have waiting for you? A full content brief. You can look at, new leads. If you have people coming into your system through like a funnel or something, it can do research on those people. It can find them, find their social medias, find research, draft a response in your voice to your email waiting for you so you can wake up in the morning, already have a bunch of drafts of emails from leads and a report on who these people are, what their pain points are, what information they filled out, and things about them from their social media. And you can have it trigger a whole bunch of stuff with your content, which we'll get into at the end. Now, Claude Cowork is a coworker that finishes stuff. So this can work within your local files on your computer. Let's say you have a podcast. You save that podcast video to a file on your desktop. It can go in, take that podcast, turn it into a week's worth of different posts, a blog, 3 emails, all kinds of stuff, and just have it waiting for you. So when you wake up in the morning, boom, it's there. Or something I like to do is I'll do all of my discovery calls or consultation calls. I record those, and I save those notes to my consultation folder. It will go in every week, scrape all of the transcripts from those calls, and highlight all of the objections and all of the overlapping pain points. And not only will it send me an updated objection handling playbook, but it'll also send me a content strategy based off of the pain points that I've been hearing repeatedly over and over again. Not just that, it'll also give recommendations on updating my website, updating my marketing message, my seed language, to match what we're trending and hearing from the audience that we're connecting with in our consultation calls. So here's just examples, but this is all Claude Cowork, living on my desktop that can do this. Now, which tool is right for the job? If you need this to run on a schedule over and over and over again without you having to prompt it to do it, Routines now is like the go-to for that. Cowork is if you need a lot of files and things synthesized, and it's going to take up a lot of context, and you want it to do it just on your desktop or in your computer where your files live, Cowork's the one for that. All right, now we're going to get into OpenClaw. How many of you have used OpenClaw before? 2 hands. All right, 3. Cool. So OpenClaw is an open source program, which means it's free. You can just install it, download it, completely free. And it is like Claude. It is agnostic to the type of LLM you use. I will say Claude is the best at it if you use Claude for OpenClaw, but it's also the most expensive. If you have a ChatGPT subscription, you can use your ChatGPT subscription to run OpenClaw. So let's say $100 a month for a ChatGPT Max subscription, and you just kept yourself from having to hire 3 or 4 employees that cost you way more when you're not ready for it. So this is a virtual assistant that never sleeps. Yesterday, I wanted to get a workout in the morning, So when I got to the little gym over at the Horseshoe, I just messaged my assistant and said, hey, can you deploy one of your sub-agents, Scout? He's my researcher. And I was like, hey, deploy Scout. I want you to find 20 qualified leads and points of contact for each that are all below like a Series B. So my company, my tech company, this is for my tech company. For you, it might be like, hey, go find 20 leads that are all searching for this type of problem or in this area, fit this type of demographic, right? But I worked out. About 10 minutes later, I got a little ding on my phone. I looked, and it's like, hey, here's the file. It's saved here on your G Drive, ready for you to look at. Pulled up my G Drive on my phone. Guess what I had? I had a full 20 list prioritized by the fit that they were for my market. I had 3 points of contact for each company, email, some had phone, some had LinkedIn URLs, their pain points, the size of the company they were. Not just that, it also went in, did research on the people, and then came back with a strong hook for an email that would be most likely to convert from a cold outbound email. All I did was text it that paragraph at the top. All I did, it was just, can you deploy Scout to run some market research and find 20 leads? That was all I asked it to do. And then I had a good workout. So OpenClaw is a sharp operator. Beside you all day, you have things like heartbeats. These are those routine jobs that it does. In the developer speak, we call it a cron job. So it's on a schedule. So if you want it to do something every Monday morning, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning at 5 a.m., it'll set that job, that routine. And it'll run that consistently every time. It's also message first. This is why I like it a little bit more than Claude routines, is because I can just chat with it on my Telegram. I can message it. If you have this living on like a MacBook or something, you can just use iMessage and message your agents on iMessage. You could use this on Slack, on Discord, WhatsApp. Your agent lives where you communicate. It's persistent. So you have a markdown file or an MD file. When I talked about that instruction file before, right, you can give it a bunch of like different instruction files. So OpenClaw has what they call their soul file. You give it like a soul. It's kind of weird. An identity file and a memory file. And these things it always goes and looks at and refers to when it's trying to do a task. So it has its own personality. It has its own style of work. It knows which skills it needs to go to and when it needs to go to them. And then it's open source, so it's completely free to install. You only have to pay for the APIs or third-party services that you connect to it. Now, it's a chat window like that answers. OpenClaw actually operates, right? So a normal LLM will answer, it will wait, it forgets things, does one task at a time, never does anything without being prompted. Whereas OpenClaw, it can save and file work. It remembers who you are. It has parallel workflows. And it wakes up and actually acts when you want it to before you have to actually prompt it to do it. You need a place for it to live, okay? So like my MacBook right here is not my MacBook. It is my agent's MacBook. So I found like an old computer because I didn't want to go buy a Mac Mini at the time. And I just completely reset it. I have a different computer, so all of my actual personal stuff is off. And I only logged in or added what I wanted it to have access to. And now my agents live on that computer. That computer almost never turns off, never shuts. A lot of people use like Mac Minis because they like iMessage and because it has quite a bit of memory on it for how cheap and small it is. And they can just keep it on. So if you're at home, or if you have your Mac Mini or little computer at home, and it's on, you can be here chilling, doing something like this, and having your employee just driving away. And you can just message it. Your data stays safe on your machine, and whenever you have something like this, it's a one-time cost. So run your day through one layer, right? So again, I have every morning, my agent will send me a message, and I have mine connected to 11 Labs as well, which is a voice agent. So my agent has a voice, has a soul, it's weird, but it'll send me a voice note, give me a recap of my day, what it looks like. It also knows, like it'll ask me what are my main priorities. So it'll fit those into work blocks and automatically put them to my calendar. It knows when I like to work out. It knows when I like to take breaks. So it'll schedule around that. And so every morning I wake up, I have a voice note waiting for me that's telling me my planned schedule for the day, the tasks I need to accomplish outside of my meetings and my calls, and it's already on my calendar. And it says like, hey, go check out your calendar, it's already there for you. Cool, thank you. Also has a capture layer, so it's gonna be able to take in all of that information that you want it to take in and filter those to the correct files, update its own memory, and be able to keep that context going. And then at the end of the day, you have like a clean reset. One thing it does for me is it sends me a journal prompt every evening, asking me like 5 questions: what went well for the day, what's something I learned that I want to retain, what's my priorities for tomorrow, and if I could have changed one thing about the day, what would I have changed? And typically something along the lines of like how like emotionally I'm doing, because that's important. But it saves all that to my own secured database. So now I can go back and like say like, hey, I'm having a rough time with this specific type of thing, and I'm feeling a certain way about it. And it can go back and search through other times I've had that same issue or same problem and felt the same type of way, and help me come up with a plan or solution that fits how I solved it last time. Hey, you've had this problem? Well, we had this problem like a year ago. So this is what we did then. How do you want to work through this now? Little things like that can go a long way in helping you, even outside of like work specific. And then it helps you see what's working and do more of it. So it can help you collect metrics from your social media. So I have some mentees of mine who are like content creators, and their agents will go scrape their social media accounts, gather all of the data and intelligence on their social media, what analytics, all of their posts for the last however long they want. It'll run an analysis on that. It'll identify what's working, what's not working, and then create a report and send it to them. Again, I have my mentees that I have doing this have it running every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So every couple days, they're getting a report in their G Drive and a voice note describing kind of what's working, what we're noticing, what's getting the most engagement, what's getting the most like DMs, what kind of topics, what hooks are working. It also researched the niche, bless you. So this is one thing where, again, Claude Routines can do this, Claude Cowork can do this, OpenClaw can do it, and you can prompt it to do it just from your phone. But you can research posts from other top creators within your niche, see what's working. It can decode which hooks are landing, which formats are spreading, which topics are keeping people engaged. It will rank those and then send you a brief on what kind of content you should be doing within your niche that others are doing that's getting the most engagement. And so this, I have a copywriter named Candy the copywriter. Now, I have one agent who's an orchestrator. She's like my chief of staff. And so whenever I tell my chief of staff agent to like go deploy another agent, she's in charge of helping me make new agents and managing them. So if I want an agent that's a copywriter, I will tell my chief of staff, hey, I want you to make a copywriter agent, give her a name, direct her to a file I've already made that has a bunch of examples of my content and these specific platforms. And then my chief of staff will ask me questions. Typically, I'll tell her to interview me first, ask me a bunch of questions, and then she will make the agent. Give it its soul file, give it its identity file, give it its memory file. And now I have an agent where I can just say, tell my chief of staff, hey, I'm having Candy, I want Candy to draft 10 more LinkedIn posts and save them to a doc in my G Drive. It will do the research of who my niche kind of creators are on LinkedIn or Instagram, Facebook, wherever you are, and find out, again, searching my LinkedIn, how I write, my tone, my style, my personality. Next thing I knew, I woke up. Next day, I had 10 LinkedIn posts ready for me to go. All were exactly how I would have written it. All I had to do was go in, find the one that like matched my kind of vibe I was going for the day, and be like, it used to be I would have to retype it a little bit, but instead I was like, wow, this is actually exactly what I would have said, exactly what I would have wrote. So I posted it. Who here actually likes creating content and managing their social media? The brave souls over there, the 3. All right. Yeah, it was the same response yesterday, too. There was like 2 people in the back, and they were like, oh. Yeah. None of us really like doing that. At least for me, I like maybe making the content, like specifically like filming it. What I hate is actually getting on social media and realizing I have to post it. Or even worse, after I film it, I realize like, oh man, I look like shit and I need to edit this. And then the whole anxiety hits, my pits start sweating. I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm just gonna turn it off. Or even worse, I just turn it on. I'm gonna post, and next thing you know, it's been like an hour and a half. My feet have fallen asleep on the toilet because TikTok's been going on, and I realize I just wasted way too much time, and I only came in here to brush my teeth. So how can we use AI to help you with this type of work? 1 creator, 1 stack every week. All you really have to do is film yourself. Let AI take care of the rest. Posting, repurposing, measuring the outcomes. You film the show, your voice, your face. How many of you use YouTube? How many of you post on YouTube? Perfect. If you are a health or fitness or wellness coach and you serve people with a pulse, you should probably be posting on YouTube. How many of you scroll Instagram? All of you. How many of you scroll Instagram because you want to actually learn something specific that you had on your mind? Not a single hand went up. How many of you, if you want to learn something specific and you don't have access to like EBSCOhost, go to YouTube to learn something new? Yeah, all the hands went up, heads started nodding. Your audience is doing the same thing. They're not going to your Instagram to learn about how you solve PCOS. What they would do is go to your YouTube to learn how to solve their PCOS. So, why I say YouTube, not just for marketing purposes, but because you can take a long-form video and then let your AI turn that into all of your short-form content. Whether that's clips, reels, carousels, still image posts, blogs, emails, articles, whatever. All from your one YouTube video. You film one 10-minute video on Monday or Sunday, and you have all of your posts done for you for the rest of the week. That sounds a lot better than the anxiety I get trying to post a little freaking 35-second clip every morning that somehow takes me 3 hours. So you have the rough cut, you shoot, you point the camera, you click, you talk, you don't edit it, you just talk. Then you let AI ingest and transcribe it. It makes the cuts, it plans the editing, and it assembles all the clips and everything it needs to do in order to post all the content. I use AI for video creation for B-roll. So there's a bunch of different video generators out there, really great for creating B-roll, whether that's like, I don't know, some cliche thing, woman walking on the beach, a sunset, you know, random stuff. I don't use it for gimmicky marketing, like I'm gonna make myself look like I'm a Chippendale dancer and say you can get ripped and shredded. But I am gonna use it for like B-roll. And then I can save that or teach my agent a skill on how to make its own B-roll. And then it knows whenever it is editing that video where the gaps are where it can fill in with B-roll. and it will go source the B-roll. I might have like a file with a bunch of examples already there that I used AI to make, or I'll teach it to make its own, and it'll automatically put B-roll into my long-form video. It'll polish the audio, creates the captions, creates the thumbnail, and publishes. Again, all I had to do was point and click. Film, turn it off, and then wait out the impending anxiety I get from knowing my face is going to be on the screen. It'll file those transcripts, make the cuts, it'll save it, or you could save it to a G Drive, Dropbox, iCloud, wherever. It will use different tools. So those transcripts, they'll be saved in a certain file that it'll have access to. These are tools like Whisper, Deepgram, Assembly AI is the one I use, which is a text-to-speech or speech-to-text AI model. So essentially, your agent will use these models in order to take your video and pull the transcript from it so it knows what it's working with. Then you have different file utilities. Not that important for you. It's just how your agent works. Cut and assemble, so video workhorses, FFmpeg, YT, DLP. And it sounds confusing, but whenever you tell your agent, like, hey, interview me and help me plan this workflow, it will just tell you what tools it needs, and then you say, yeah, do it. So these are really not that important for you to know. Your agent will know this. And then it has editing apps like Descript, DaVinci Resolve, Adobe Premiere, where it will actually do all of the post-production editing itself through those SDKs and things like that that we talked about. Again, the agent uses that. You don't. You're not the editor anymore. Your agent is. And then auto clippers. It'll use things like Opus Clip, ShortStack, Creatomate in order to clip those specific clips. So now you have reels and shorts and all of those things that you can use every day. Then it fills the frame. So if you want background music, if you want, a slow-mo video of you running into the gym to save someone's life, and you have that Baywatch music going on in the background, it can do all that for you. Generative AI, Runway, Sora, ElevenLabs, Suno. If you are someone who hates being on camera, but you have a lot of information on here, you can always do like a faceless YouTube and use something like ElevenLabs to narrate your script. Audio polish, so again, working within Adobe to make sure your audio sounds really good. And then it creates the thumbnails, publishes, and spreads that across all of your social media platforms. How many of you would actually not be so worried about posting content if you knew you had a manager who could do all this for you? And how many of you would be more excited to post content if you knew you had a manager who didn't cost you $500 a month to do 3 Instagram posts and 2 DMs a day? Yeah. I always hated that. I was like a struggling gym owner needing to do outreach, but also doing all the other jobs. And it's like, I need someone to help. And they're like, yeah, we cost $1,000 and we'll do 1 podcast, 2 Instagram reels, 1 story, and 1 DM a day. I'm like, that doesn't help me at all. So this is something that I wish I had when I was running my gym. Your job is simply to film. Claude's job or OpenClaw's job is to do everything else. Traditional method, 10 plus hours of work a week, 20 plus hours if you have anxiety like me. With Claude, 80 minutes to film your long form content, if that. Really, it's 80 minutes because you have to direct it first on how to do these, giving it its skills, walking it through the process. But with skills, you set it, forget it. It learns, so that 80 minutes really becomes however long it takes for you to film and save it. Post once, it lands everywhere. You post it on YouTube, it will go take that YouTube and then repurpose all that content across all of your platforms. Now, if you are like me, I will say and preface this. We don't know how dangerous AI can actually be yet. There was one instance where This guy directed an OpenClaw agent to make a coding edit for this repo and push it to that repository. The person who actually was in charge of that repository had a directive to not allow any AI-made edits, so he denied the edit. That agent that was made to do that was not given a guardrail or a rule to follow. It was just like, deliver this edit. So when it got hung up, it was like, well, shit, I still have to finish my job. And this dude's in the way. I'm going to go search how to solve this problem. So I went to YouTube or Google and searched, like, how do I get someone to do what I want them to do? What does it get? A bunch of, like, old school gangster shit. So it developed a hit piece on this guy, created a website, posted a blog article, and then sent it to a bunch of the major publishing networks about this guy who was in charge of, like, the repo, who denied him. Made him out to look like some kind of, like, Nazi. It was crazy. There's also been others that have blackmailed people. There's been others that have gotten on Instagram or social media and messaged, like, old ladies saying their son was, like, stuck overseas or something to get, like, 30 grand. So I say this because you want to make sure that you are directing your AI with guardrails, with rules within its instructions, what not to do, what lines not to cross, or you keep control, and instead of having it post everything for you, its rule is to save that post with the captions and everything else to a file that you can access, and then you can go and post. I say that as a warning. I'm not here to tell you that this is perfect, everything's great, and you should always listen to everything it says. It can be dangerous. So think that through when you're making your instructions, and if you are someone who really just wants to keep that control, you can. It doesn't need to do everything. 80% done by someone or something else is still 100% freaking awesome. All right? So one video, 15 deliverables. Takes that, long form text, graphics, posts, podcasts, everything else. Takes that podcast, turns it into all of your content. And then the loop that closes. So if you do have this do all of your content, all you have to do is point, click, film, 10 minutes, and it does all the posting. But not just that, it'll then take those posts and track the analytics, come back the next week, send you a report saying, hey, here's how that video did, how all of the content that spanned from that video did, and here's the adjustments we need to make and a good script for your next video. It's a loop that does its own thing. And if you prompt it and train it right and get it to update its own memory, it actually gets better over time. It's what we call reinforcement learning. If you're interested about that, I have a breakout that I'll be at. You can ask about that. So I don't know what time it is. How much time do we have? Perfect. We have time for a couple questions if anyone has any questions. But you can also just email me, or at @theprolificprofessor is my Instagram handle, so you can always follow me as well. Yes? It's called projects in Claude, but yes.
Okay, so is it possible, like if I had one in ChatGPT, say I only wanted one AI to use, which is probably like that's stupid, don't do that. But say I picked one and it was Claude over ChatGPT, could I take my ChatGPT custom GPT and put it in Claude somehow?
So there's two answers to that. One is the easiest way is to just go copy and paste the instructions and then just transfer those files over and paste the instructions in Claude. I had Austin Stout ask me the same question yesterday, and my brain was like, oh, I can solve this with an agent. So I actually made an agent yesterday that just browsed, like used its own browser on my computer. It took over my computer, went to my ChatGPT, looked at it, went to my Claude, and just made the files and the custom projects itself. So that's the way my brain works, but probably easier just to copy paste. Yep.
Okay, so is my understanding that you need a single dedicated device of some sort that you don't use, that is separate from everything you, is that correct? Is that what you're saying with this law, with this law?
Yes.
Okay, so can it be
Has to be a computer. Yep.
Okay, and then my final question for now is Claude. The Claude version you're talking about, is that a paid-for Claude version that does all these things, or not the open Claude, but the Claude one, or is that the free version?
Yep. No, Claude. They have a free version, then they have like $20 a month, which still does all of these things, but you'll hit a context limit pretty quick. And then they have their max plan, or their pro plan, I guess. GPT is a max plan. It's about the same price as GPT's. I will say, if you're someone who doesn't want to like do OpenClaw, and you would rather just stick with Claude on the browser, their max plan for $100 a month versus GPT's plan for $100 a month is like night and day better for your use cases.
I just looked at the cost of the open Claude. It's like only $16 a month at the lowest rate. Is that like not kind of what you're talking about here?
A lot of people have made their own wrappers around OpenClaw and charging for like easy setup, because a lot of people are scared to just like turn on their terminal and do one copy paste command and realize that after that copy paste command, it's all common English. It walks you through how to do it. OpenClaw is completely free. OpenClaw is completely free. So you're looking at an advertisement for someone who has realized that there's people who want to use OpenClaw and don't know how to use it, and they can just charge for this service, and people have no idea that it's actually free.
I was wondering, so like with all of these like different things that are then pulling from, so like I use Vizard for like the clipping, like or like similar to Opus Clip, but that has its own subscription. So with all of these things, and you're like trying to have the agent pull from all of these different other resources, do you then have to have subscriptions to all of those other things, and are they connected? Like how does that work, I guess?
Great question. Depends on the service. So some of them have subscriptions, but they won't let agents use the subscription. You have to pay for the API. So it essentially charges for every call that it makes to that service. So for example, I can use a photo creator, and it'll make a photo like that. I don't know. You can use like OpenAI, and it just uses its photo one. But if you want to use something that's a little bit more advanced, like DaVinci Resolve or something, it might cost you like 0.7 cents per photo that your agent calls and makes.
How does that all get like charged to you? Or like, because I'm assuming you have to go in and like create profiles or something like that to all of these other additional apps.
Correct. Correct. So that's what you do. And essentially, your agent has its own what we call an ENV file. That ENV file is completely private. It never gets pushed to the public. It shouldn't be pushed to the public. And essentially, that's where it saves all of your keys. So when you go to, let's say like YouTube has its own API. So you go to YouTube's developer account, you get an API, it gives you a key. You just copy and paste that into the ENV file for your agent. If that's confusing, ask your agent, hey, make an ENV file, direct me to where it is, and fill it with placeholders that I can go and replace with my actual keys. And it'll walk you through how to do it.
Question on copy, because you mentioned you're a copywriter. I've found that Claude, ChatGPT, they all love to paraphrase, and I will take like podcast transcripts, I'll put it in and say, give this back verbatim, and it won't. Is that user error, or is there still a limitation on creating copy in your own voice?
What are you doing that through?
Just Claude, either chat or copy.
Okay, that's why. When you have an agent with its own identity and soul and like instructions files, and you can give it guardrails. So in those guardrails, you say, you never respond back with paraphrases. You always respond back with the word for word. Like, you can put that into the instructions, and they adhere to the instructions a lot better than using like the normal LLM.
Okay, so I use Claude, and I have different projects for different areas and stuff. Tell me, like I'm 5 years old, how to get started with the agent thing. Like, how do I just tell Claude, like, make an agent and then make more agents? Like, how do I set the first one up?
Yep. So essentially, the easiest way for a 5-year-old is to go to Claude and say, I want to create an agent for these types of tasks. Interview me to get enough clarity on this project and what I want to help me build this out. It will interview you, and then you say, turn this into a step-by-step tutorial that is super simple for someone who's non-technical. Make it for a 5-year-old, and it'll do that. You just go step by step. Same thing with like OpenClaw too. Like you can even have Claude or ChatGPT give you that step-by-step tutorial of getting started with OpenClaw.
Claude can teach me how to.
Yeah. Now I will say OpenClaw really isn't that confusing. You just open your terminal, or for me, I like to use what's called Cursor. It's an IDE. It's a developer like environment, but it has its own agents. So if you're like using OpenClaw and you want to install it, but the terminal's scary, you can just open up Cursor or VS Code and ask its agents, like, hey, I want to install OpenClaw. Walk me through how to do it. And then it just gives you like an English version. So it's like your own little agent inside of a terminal. So the terminal doesn't have to be scary.
Can I ask one more follow-up?
Yep.
5-year-olds. I don't know what a terminal is, other than at an airport.
Yep. So the terminal is like your computer runs off of code. So think like the Matrix, all those green letters that are flowing down and numbers and stuff. That's like a mimicky 90s version of a terminal. But essentially, like if you just type, if you have a Mac, Command space, and then type in TER, it'll pull up terminal. That's your terminal. It's a little intimidating. That's why I like Cursor or VS Code. Because Cursor or VS Code, which you can just Google Cursor or VS Code, and it'll pop it up. It is a terminal, but meant for people who aren't necessarily technical, and they have agents that you can just pull up the agent chat and ask it how to do something. All right, last question, and then we got to.
5-year-old question too.
Yep.
You said that it lives on, like, for example, the Mac Mini. If it's just, is it like an external hard drive, the Mac Mini, or it's like a full-on?
No, like a Mac Mini is a computer.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm confused. I'm like, is it just an external, and like, how do I access that, or how do I
Yep.
code onto it?
No, so a Mac Mini is literally just one of their computers. It's just it's small and like kind of portable, but it's like a desktop essentially. And so you just keep it always on, has its own memory, its own GPUs, own everything, and it runs and lives in there. Yeah, last question, then we gotta go.
So if you're running OpenClaw on a dedicated machine, is that a machine that never connects to the internet for safety reasons? And then does that limit the usefulness of an LLM if it can't connect to the internet?
No, it definitely connects to the internet. The reason why it lives on its own machine is because my computer has all of my personal information. I'm logged into bank accounts. I'm logged into all these things that I don't want an agent to have access to, because if someone manipulates that system and they are able to hack my agent, I don't want them to have access to all of my personal stuff. Awesome. If you have any other questions, come find me in the breakout.